Gang, what's going on? We are back in Shanghai this weekend. We have another sneaky card and a banger of a main event here. The bantamweights are going at it. Umar Nurmagomedov is headlining the card. And before we get into this, obviously we're going to break down all 6 fights on the main event. But I just got to say, Umar Nurmagomedov is the most underrated out of all these Dagestani guys. I think even Usman gets more credit than him and more praise, and he's not even in the big show. There was a point where I think Umar was on a 20-fight win streak. If not, it was like 19, leading up to that first title shot against Merab. And if he goes in there and he beats Merab that night, we're talking about Umar Nurmagomedov the same way we're talking about Islam, the same way we're talking about Khabib. But I think because he hasn't got that championship and he doesn't have that beautiful undefeated record, we hold him to such a higher standard. Umar Nurmagomedov is the most underrated in that camp, and that's just a fact. But anyway, he's headlining this weekend in Shanghai against Song Yadong. Song Yadong is a good fighter. He's pretty solid everywhere. There's nowhere that he has real holes, but I don't know if he could compete with him. We're going to get to that later, but Umar is coming in ranked number 3 in the world. Song Yadong is coming in at 6, and I love this fight for Umar. I don't know if there's a better fight on the roster for him right now, and not only stylistically, but the fact that Umar gets to headline a fight in Asia to a huge, massive audience to grow his fan base before he gets that second title shot, it's absolutely perfect. He's about to be on a 3-fight win streak going up against Song Yadong, someone who's complete everywhere but doesn't offer any real threats. And you just got to respect what we're seeing Umar do right now, and it's similar to what Sean O'Malley was doing, right? Umar was never champion, but still the very top of the division. They lose the belt like Sean O'Malley did, or they lose the opportunity to get the belt like Umar did, and they don't just sit out. They go right back into the bracket and they start racking up wins, taking out all the other contenders, right? We just saw Sean do that against Zahabi, and we're about to see Umar do that against Song Yadong. I think it's such a low IQ position to kind of hate on all Dagestani fighters and say that they're boring, but especially when people are saying that Umar Nurmagomedov is a boring fighter who's just going to take people down and hug them. Someone was commenting on Instagram the other day telling me that Umar is one of the most boring fighters in the UFC. You're out of your mind. Yes, he's a complete fighter, so he could grapple everywhere, and a lot of times that's where he ends up in his fights, but he's a super dynamic striker. His kicks are crazy. If the fight stays standing like I think it will against Song Yadong, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised at how dynamic Umar Nurmagomedov striking really is. There's not a place in this fight where Song Yadong can't compete with Umar, but there also isn't a fight where Song Yadong can beat Umar, and that's why I think Song Yadong has kind of a low ceiling, because that pattern is consistent anytime we see him fight the very top of the top. He's 2-2 in his last 4, and his last 5 wins for Davison Figueiredo, Henry Cejudo, Gutierrez, and Ricky Simone. And I'm not taking anything away from those guys. All 5 of them were very elite at one point, but we see a pattern anytime he hits that elite level, he tends to struggle. Corey Sandhagen, Sean O'Malley both come to mind, and I think we're going to see that same pattern continue this Saturday against Umar. If we're looking at the path to victory for both guys, like I just mentioned, Song can compete with Umar no matter where this fight goes, but there's no place that Song can win this fight. Outside of a one-punch knockout, maybe early in the fight, I can't see him winning. If we're talking about Umar, there's lots of ways that he could win. I think the most expected is he just outpoints him on the feet, mixes in some grappling, and wins a decision over 25 minutes. I could also see an early submission. My official prediction is obvious. I think that Umar Nurmagomedov is going to win this fight, but what's next for Umar I think is going to surprise people. I don't think he goes into a title fight, especially with Peter Yan and Merab about to settle that rematch. I think the fight to make after this is Sean O'Malley and Umar Nurmagomedov for a true #1 contender fight. Looking at the ladies in the co-main event, we have Yan Xiaonan and Denise Gomes. I just had to double check this real quick, but Yan is still the number 4 ranked strawweight in the world, and it's pretty crazy. 2 of her last 3 wins were against former champions. One of them was against the now current champion in Mackenzie Dern. Just doesn't seem like the 4th best fighter in the world, and that's not me taking anything away from her. I just think she's kind of on a cold streak. I know at one point she was on like a 14-fight win streak coming into the UFC and even continued in the UFC, but in her last 7 she actually has a losing record. She's 3-4, and her last win was over 2 years ago. It just kind of feels like one of those fights where we see a passing of the guard. Denise Gomes is coming into this fight riding a 4-fight win streak, a ton of momentum behind her, and she's coming off a win in a similar matchup over Pennington, who was also a decade older than her. I'm seeing Denise as a dog here, and with that win streak and being over a decade younger, I just think we have to play this as the first dog of the card. Denise Gomes is going to be my official pick. This next fight is a parlay buster. I'm not touching it no matter what my pick is. We're looking at Kai Asakura Asakura and Shilung Auri. Kai Asakura is a massive favorite coming into this fight, but at the end of the day, in the only organization that matters, he's 1-2 in his last 3 fights, and so is Auri. I know and I've seen what Kai Asakura has done in Rizin, but again, I'll say the only organization that really matters is the UFC, and he just hasn't shown me anything yet. At the end of the day, Auri has legit power. We've seen him flatline Cody Gibson in the first round, and that was less than a year ago. He could easily land one of these shots against Kai. Kai's only win inside the UFC came against Cameron Smotherman, who's on a 4-fight losing streak right now. He's not even in the UFC. He got cut last year. It's just a lot different when you get to the big leagues, and Auri does have more experience here. My official prediction is I think Kai Asakura is going to win, but again, I would not bet this fight. Next fight, we're looking at the rematch of Alex Perez and Su Mudairje. Last time these guys fought, it was a no contest, so we didn't really get to see the fight play out, but on 2 of the judges' scorecards coming out of round 1, Alex Perez did win that first round. This should be a close fight, and I'm looking at Alex Perez is coming in as the underdog. There's definitely going to be value there. He has more experience coming into this fight and definitely holds some knockout power. He was able to finish Charles Johnson earlier this year, but outside of his last win, he's lost 5 of his last 6 fights. Now he's flying across the country to fight a guy who I think is more in his prime. You guys remember Su had a pretty insane fight against Matt Schnell that I think partially broke him for a little bit. I personally was super high on Su. I thought he was going to pan out to be something serious at flyweight. He was fighting Matt Schnell, and I believe he was dominating him earlier in that fight, and it turned out to be one of the crazier comebacks of that year. Matt Schnell came back, and I don't remember if he TKO'd him or submitted him, but he ended up beating him pretty badly in that fight, and after that, Su lost 3 fights in a row. But since then, it kind of looks like he's turning it around and putting things together. Now he's riding a 3-fight win streak coming into this fight against Alex Perez, and I think where both of these guys' careers are going right now, I think that Su should have the advantage coming into this fight. My official prediction, I think that Su is going to get the win here, continue his win streak, and maybe get a bigger name next, maybe a guy like Charles Johnson, but I do think this is going to be a close fight. Next fight we're going to look at, this is going to be a guaranteed highlight knockout. Both guys are coming into this fight with a 100% finish rate, and both guys have all knockouts. We got Levi Johnson versus Liu Shai. Shai is a super high-level kickboxer coming over from K1. He was on a 10-fight win streak before crossing into MMA, and 9 out of his last 10 fights were all finishes. If you watch some of his footage, he's just a more technical fighter than Levi, especially on the feet. When we look at Levi, he does have a little bit more experience if we're talking about pure MMA fighting, but if this fight stays standing, I don't think it's really going to be close. And when we look at Levi's last few fights, he hasn't shot a takedown when he was on the Dana White Contender Series or his debut. So his second fight in the UFC, I don't think we're going to see him change things up and engage in takedowns. I think this fight is going to be primarily standing, and I think he's going to get knocked out. My official prediction for this fight, I'm taking Liu Shai to win, probably by knockout. One more fight I want to talk about with you guys. We got more flyweights going at it. We have Bilal Hassan and Nilson Rojas. The flyweight division just keeps getting more and more stacked. We got 2 undefeated prospects going at it here, and again, one of the crazier stories, we saw this last week, but it's not getting enough attention. Bilal Hassan was on the Dana White Contender Series. I think that same card as Anthony Witt. It was about 2 weeks ago. If I'm wrong, it was 3 weeks ago, but he's already making his debut. And I think more guys are learning that saying yes to Dana and taking these crazy fights is only going to make your career grow 10 times faster. And I think this is a great matchup for Bilal. He's finished his last 7 opponents. He has a ton of momentum coming into this fight, and the style in which he fights at is just super fan friendly. On the Dana White Contender Series, he took no damage. He got his opponent out of there in less than a minute. I think it was about 40 seconds. This is a guy who could become one of your favorite fighters in a couple years. This is going to sound crazy, and I don't want to throw Bilal Hassan to the wolves too quick, but I think down the road, maybe like 2 years, Bilal Hassan and Brandon Royval would be an insane fight to make. If there was a BMF belt at 125, Bilal Hassan would already be a contender. And Nilson Rojas is an incredible fighter. This isn't going to be an easy fight. Just as dangerous, he has an 80% finish rate, and he's also undefeated. I've been trying to watch footage on him, and I just don't see a lot of tape on Nilson Rojas. If you guys have some, let me know in the comments. I just couldn't find any, at least on YouTube. This is going to be a crazy fight regardless. My official prediction, I'm taking Bilal Hassan to win this fight. I think he finds a finish as well. Just to recap real quick, I got Umar, Denise, Kai Asakura, Su, Liu Shai, and Bilal Hassan. I got all those guys winning. Let me know what you think your lock of the card is. Comment on this video. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.